You know, there's been so much nastiness and manipulations of all sorts, and it's just disgusting because they just use my libido in so many ways and try to do this back and forth and crank up my libido. For example, there's this woman who's very attractive, very beautiful, that they stimulate me. Well, somebody I would find definitely stimulating, and then I'll definitely get an extreme feeling where it's like the libido just cranked up, and then they later on I could still feel it, and then aim it toward a kid. If there's a kid somewhere, there's an ad there's with a kid stimulate there. There's somewhere a kid is, and it's so nasty. And that's the things they do. But one thing the reason why I've been doing this videos is because I want to show this patterns of tormenting. They do this pedophilia type of torture. It's disgusting, and I've shown so many already like times what they've been doing. But I don't even speak only, but ensure that others are heard and heard about this what they do. Their job is to get you to accept this manipulation as if it's you. Now, everybody knows that. My whole ecosystem is supposed to make me subscribe to this. That is their job, or their assignment, I should say. But to hear this trash, the way they make themselves talk, right? It's like we are at war. It's not war, huh? That alone is also kind of tormenting because it's like obviously I know she's these people make themselves talk like that to try to counter reality. Of course, it's not war. I'm just a subject, and you're supposed to drive me to insanity and manipulate my brain. And you do that in the comfort of your location, remote. And after me, there'll be somebody else who do that too, and that's that. And you're using obviously this technology because you are contracted by the government to implement this technology onto civilians to develop this technology. That's it. And you're gonna disorient me, and you're gonna manipulate me, and you're gonna do all these things. And of course, torture will be applied because that alone is torturous. And that's that. And you don't want to be seen because what's going to happen if I see you? You're really going to be seeing yourself for what you are. Now, these people are bottom feeders, right? For a grown woman, a grown man to force themselves to sound in a certain way, to sound menacing, it's humiliating on its own, right? They were trying to make me subscribe. I was listening to this story. This rapper, no, this producer, I think everybody, Russell Simmons, and he was married to his wife. His ex-wife was about 18 years old, younger than him. And the first time they met, she was still in high school. And at that time, he, I guess, was in his late 30s. Was it? If I do the math, mid to late 30s or something. And she was like in high school, right? And he was with her and all that. And that's disgusting. That is foul. But this is the reality of what's going on around the world. This is what happens. This is the truth. This is people who are there who do these things to take advantage of kids. And that was foul for him to do that, even though at the time people didn't really call that out. I don't remember hearing anything that crazy, but it was just like, but you looking back, it's just, I couldn't imagine me, my age, going to a high school and try to like, ugh, it's disgusting. But with what's happening to me now, there's a bunch of like teenagers that wants to be seen. Like they try to like find ways to prove that's you see that's like listen this is the things, and on top of that manipulators. But I understand these people actually can't even say Roy Moore, a man that will actually do these things. There's reality. Me, they have to try to paint me in certain ways. Even going to a pub, and they're like, "Oh, you see, we're proud to see them." Now, obviously, I know these people know the truth. Of course, their job is not to investigate. They're not investigators. They are here to deploy this technology onto people and manipulate people and do this thing. I'm just a subject. I understand that. I know the reality of what I mean. I fully understand the reality that these people dumb themselves down to gaslight me into accepting these things. It's still disgusting. They're not at war. They just, I'm like a computer that they're hacking and they manipulate and slowly see that person break down. That's that. They are at war with maybe reality, where they have to block it out in order to stay focused and to maintain what they do, or to cope with it. But they're not actually in war. I'm sitting here, they're sitting somewhere doing their things, day in and day out. They're tired, somebody comes in. There's no losing. There's no winning or losing. There's too much resources. Technology is super sophisticated, and the labor they have is just, this is what the technology and this program has. Now, of course, I know, and I understand why they even hire people who can easily be on this level of retardation, meaning they have no sense of logic. You hear this trash that come up with their own fantasy. They're witches. It's at war. I'm like, what a bunch of frauds. It's just, you just trash the government contract. You're frauds. What's happening to my body is because the DARPA technology has come up with sophistication of weaponry that can do this to a human being. What do you think you're waiting for? They're just trash. Now, whatever's going to happen to me, I'll never look at them as responsible for what's going to happen to me. They're just the people who deploy these terrible things to people. I know who put me in this program, I have no doubt. So I'll give them their credit of being the trash the government contract, and I'm going to give you the credit of why I'm in this program, which is death, basically, but to my employer. And then they were trying to, because this story of this man, Russell Simmons, who's like he used to have like he used to be a big like rap producer, director or something. He owned like a record, a label, very wealthy man. And obviously what he was doing was wrong. If you know, even though nobody was saying anything at the time, thinking that, looking back now, is like, wow, he was that much older, she was that young, and he was already like dating her, a kid in high school. He's like a 30-some-year-old rich man in but these stories, you hear them all the time, right? This is what they, that's reality. So with me, they were trying to find some things like, oh, remember that girl that was 3 years younger than you? Or remember those girls that were graduating high school and you were in college? I'm like, oh my goodness. And you understand the reality of things, and you hear, oh, it's fate. It's fate that you can't say Roy Moore. They're delusional. Me, with people around my age range, try to compare with a man who's old enough to be the father of this girl that he was talking to when she was in high school. They're delusional. And they're like, no, it's war. No, it's, guess what? You see this, man? This is the kind of people, really in charge of things. Can you imagine? And they're like, oh, but remember those girls? And I remember me and my best friend at the time, he was talking to a girl who he liked, and the first time we had like a double date, that was like a just starting college, and he was also in college, and we met, and they were finishing high school. And he's like, you see that? I was like, oh my gosh. How many senior high schoolers are going to parties with college? Like this is. Imagine, this was my best friend who ended up. But you have to understand, they try to live in a reality that's falsified. And today they have these kids walking around you. Ugh. Try to make, it's like, listen, don't bring this trash around me. I'm gonna embarrass this kid. And it's nasty. And then the babies, oh my gosh, oh, that's so nasty. Oh my gosh, they have disturbed me. And then try to say, no, it was you when you were a kid. We matched it. They crank up my libido and they try to force me to think about this. Oh, it's so disgusting. It's so foul, but that's what they do. And it's like we matched it too. And in this pack, I mean, listen, they know these things, right? I'm not a genius. They're just dumbing themselves down, right? These people were saying, okay, she was a child, you as a child, you have a brain of a child, and they just go, and then they were trying to talk about me. I was like, kids are stupid. Kids can do stupid, especially that young. They do stupid things, and that's that. That's what a brain of a child is capable of doing without thinking twice. But they're trying to create these false patterns and create this always match. This match as you as a kid in middle school. I was like, no, they just forced me to experience this thing and then put in my memories. But I would never even subscribe to that. I'm a an adult man. You can't imagine. Like not even. I'm a 30-some-year-old. And you say we match it to you in middle school. It's war. That is the kind of people that's supposed to make you subscribe to this thing. No, one, I'm not going to subscribe to this illogical stupidity. And two, this is what you're implanting in my childhood. To say, oh, we matched it. It's just not. I'm not going to let them live that fantasy. You do this peripheral type of torture. You try to find a way for me to be subscriptive to this. You talk about the stupid thing I did as a kid. And then try to say, no, but you see what you're feeling when you see these babies? It's what you felt when you were a kid. And do this noise campaign to try to box in as if that's logical. Now listen, I'm going to deal with some disturbing things for the theater. So this is why I keep saying God gave me strength for the theater. Because these trash are actually pedophiles that will torture babies like that and force a man and a woman to think about kids in these disgusting ways and train their brain to think this way. And they try to make them subscriptive to this. In my case, saying, no, it was you when you were a kid. No, it's what you're forcing me to experience today. Disgusting things. And try to be like, oh, you see, now does it not feel like what you felt as a kid? No. It feels like you try to make me feel the same thing when I was a kid. I know what a kid is capable of doing. I know what I did as a kid. It will never be what you wish. It will never be these nasty things that you try to make me subscribe to. They go even as young as me, as like preteen, like 9 years old, 10. And try to be like, oh, yeah, no, we match it to you as a... Who does? Do you understand? And then you hear somebody in the podcast who's not even like, just says the most normal thing to say. You can't compare a child's brain with an adult brain. And like, oh, wow. And they try to make me feel like, oh my gosh, you see, you're right. I was like, duh, this is... I know I'm not saying anything magical. I know you just have to dumb yourself down. That's why you make me feel like a genius. Of course I know. I know children and adults don't have the same brain. You can't compare a brain of a child, especially that young, to an adult's brain. Because they're like, oh, you changed, huh? I said, what? This grown person just told me that my brain as a child, my way of thinking of as a child, is no longer the same as me as an adult. And she was mean now. Oh, you changed, huh? I'm like, oh, God. This is the kind of people who try to get you to accept these things, because what's happening, I'm looking at these babies. Then they try to make me think, oh, but you felt like that. I was like, no. You're forcing me to feel like this. I will never feel like this naturally. Never. It's disgusting. It's disturbing. The things that make me feel so like pure, in a sense that's not, it doesn't go, now it's turning something that turns into nastiness. And I know my imperfection. Oh my gosh, they're hard to escape. Like, I know me, what they try to erase. I know me. That is probably like, that's something that could, and it's far from these babies. I know me. I try to do something in my mouth. Ugh. And everybody does. But they use these things to break you down and try to make you subscribe to it. Now, obviously, that's how this program goes. They're going to try to break me down day in and day out. I'll be forced to get stimulations, perceptions, retardations of all sorts. It's still disgusting. I mean, I came in. I did some stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just too much. And on top of that, my body is just breaking down. I know that something's happening to my liver and my kidneys and my heartbeat and my heart. My brain is, Jesus. I literally feel soreness at times, like this, like tumors or something going on there. So I'm breaking down physically, psychologically. I'm being tormented with these disturbing things. My libido is just being messed with to like now my libido. I would, if I could take something and then whoop, never have any libido, I'll take it. And mind you, I'm somebody who's sex driven in a sense. Women and give me. Now I'm like, oh gosh, I feel the stimulation because what they do is they crank it up even super high. Even to a woman that will make me feel stimulations, okay, the extra stimulations like, oh no, there's something they're gonna do. They're gonna crank it up and then aim it towards a child. It's nasty. It's like, oh, I'll pay those. I'm like, we know who's your pay those. That's why you banging on doors. Try to sell this BS. Listen, that's your job. I understand. I see if these people are. They try to find anything, and right now they're like, oh, but in 2014, remember the was like, oh my god. Literally trying to find anything to make me subscriptive to this thing. These people came and say Roy Moore. These people just last weekend were talking about a pub. And just say, how old were they? Like what? It was 11 p.m. in a pub. Then there's another one at 4. I left that place at like 3, 4 in the morning. And there's like a pub. And like, oh, you see that girl that came at like 3:30? Yeah. Let's prove. I'm like, jeez. They're going to try to get you to subscribe to these things. Anything they can. Because in reality, they know you. It's like, no. I'm not that. I'm not this type of person that you wish I was. But I'm not perfect. I know my imperfection. They have nothing to do with children. Matter of fact, children might be they'll bring the good side of me. And I know my imperfections are very far from children, but very focused on other things. But these people are doing these pedophilia things because that's the worst thing you can do to somebody. It's just so disturbing. At first, you get scared. They're like, oh my gosh, people they are saying that. Like, and then you realize, what? Everybody knows these are just a tactics. It's a way to break people down. Because when I start seeing people, father walking with their daughters and like smiling and laughing about it, because they know like if he sees this kid, there's gonna be they're gonna do some nasty things. So, literally smiling. I'm like, oh my goodness, these people, they know. They know. You see little kids, even people who look like kids. I don't even know, but as easy as even if they look like kids, start with some little nothing that will do nothing to me, and then you get forced to get stimulations. I remember walking somewhere. I'm looking at like a tattoo shop because I was thinking about getting a tattoo at some point, and I see this little small person. Now, to me, I'm like, she looked like she has a body of a child. I don't know, and they try to stimulate me. Ugh. I was like, she think this little thing, what this would do nothing. I was like, you see, I would throw this thing, oh my gosh. And that's what they do. In my mind, they try to create some womanly, it's like they try to create a womanly perception onto this minuscule little, I'm like, oh my gosh. And they try to even, but that's what they do. This is nasty. These people work for this kind of people. They call it, we're not at war. They say war. It's like, and they try to use this different ways how we're not at war. I was like, yes, you're not at war. You're correct. You're not at war. I know what you're in. You're supposed to manipulate my brain to think in these ways, to force me to have these disgusting perceptions. This is part of the program of this human experimentation. Now, if you're telling yourself you're at war to do these things, so you can cope with what you're part of. Don't tell me that. Don't tell you that to yourself. But I'm not going to let you live that fantasy. You're in a human experimentation that forced men and women to have disturbing reaction toward children. Break them down and make them subscribe to these things. And you're supposed to gaslight them into accepting this as if it's happening organically. So they can be subscriptive to these false perceptions. Disgusting things. So to all my target individual, I know there'll be a time, and I know that these people will create a theater of torment and torture specifically to block out the reality. Because my perps too, on top of that, they try to maintain this facade. I can't do that. I know they're not responsible for me being in this program. I give them the credit that they deserve. They're the one working day in and day out to manipulate me because they are the contracted trash for the government. And this trash is trying to create a facade that is obviously a facade. It's falsified. But the people responsible for me to be here is the reason why they can't say Roy Moore. Well, they have this little kid and try to force me to look at them in different ways. They just all ages, little teenagers, little. Can you imagine a tattoo shop? They knew I was going to look at a tattoo shop. What would a kid just randomly be in a tattoo shop? Okay, I understand it could be somebody's kids there, but why would you have just a child there, looking at the machine stuff? I'm like, oh. You see how desperate just a kid, and of course because they want me to look at this kid and then start making me perceive this kid in a certain ways, or at least this person that looks like a kid. But this is the nasty things they do. They're trash, and that's what they do, and they'll get reimbursed. Now, am I saying something magical? No. I'm saying the obvious. You dedicate your life in doing these nasty things to people, you in this foulness. What do you expect? It's gonna obviously come back to you. But trash, please continue this life and watch how it comes back. I told you, I'm not a magical being. I'm not a genius. I'm just saying the obvious. You're at working day in and day out, claiming to be at war, which you're obviously not, to manipulate somebody to think about kids in these disturbing ways. He obviously knows this is not true. He obviously knows it's being manipulated to perceive things in this way. Your job is to make him accept, gaslight himself like you are. Day in and day out. Actually, the program you work in, the people contracting you are filled with, like, these entities filled with pedophiles, of course. Magic, of course. You can't even say Roy Moore, a pedophile that will pick up these kids. What you expect? It's going to come back. You can't call yourself we're gods or we're God. Whatever you say to try to agitate, your job is to agitate and break people down in the most disturbing ways. There's no level that's too low. You know that's your job. No self-respect. Duh. It's going to come back to you, of course. I'm not magical, but what do you expect when you do this kind of thing? So when you hear people like saying the obvious things like the brain of a child is like, oh, like what? He didn't even say anything special. He said just reality, which is what they try to escape from. And they try to counter it. It's like, yeah, I know my brain is for you guys to manipulate me to think in this illogical way, to be subscriptive to this. But if you continue to live in this false life, you'll see magic. Once again, you'll be shocked. Trash. To all my target individuals, be lucky that you didn't have to live their life.